Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Pass the Mic, where we highlight electronic and alternative music artists from around the globe. Today, I am joined by Gideon, all the way from Nairobi, here to share a little bit more about his music, his work, his travels, his life. Gideon, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining. So, for those of you that don't know about Gideon, would you like to share a little bit more about who you are, what you do?
I go by GHEDI. I am a electronic DJ and producer. I specialize in, or I call my sound like the intersection between the global south and forward-thinking electronic music. So if you want to like condense that, like Afro house, I guess.
Okay.
Um, I released my first single a couple months ago and have another one on the way. I'm a member of the Rise Collective based in Berlin. Um, And I, as like a lot of creatives from the global south, have to wear a million hats at once. So I've been involved in organizing festivals, event series, in Kenya, Ethiopia, and yeah, that's pretty much a short version.
Okay, that's a great short version. I mean, it's pretty condensed and straight to the point. So, what you're generally working in is like Afro House with Rise Collective. So, that's based in Berlin. You work also, like you were saying, in Ethiopia and Kenya. So, how do you find
Yeah.
like the middle ground between all of those different spaces? Because, like, working with Rise Collective in Berlin, I'm sure looks really different from like working in East Africa. So, what does that look like for you?
Completely. I mean, so I kind of got into the like the background of like running festivals and parties out of a necessity. You know, I started off as a DJ in Ethiopia in 2017, and you know, nobody was organizing. There's no infrastructure. You know, our events
Mm.
sector is it's not formalized at all. So I was finding myself fighting with promoters and event organizers about getting paid on time, or you know, basic aesthetic details in
That's
parties
for
being
like
off. You
all
know,
genres or just specifically for like your genre?
specifically like in electronic music because it just
Mm,
tends to be we're more DIY, right?
mhm.
And the mainstream stuff is already established, and but I was never interested in going into those spaces anyway. So yeah, out of a necessity and a desire to do something a bit different, started to create, and you know that brought me in touch with other like-minded people from the region. I started to play in Kenya quite often and Uganda a bit. I recently played my first show in Zanzibar. I was just there this last weekend actually as well. And you know, seeing the growth of electronic music, specifically like Afro house in this part of the world is it's pretty amazing. You know, it's all these guys we started off um a few years ago with just kind of an idea, and through just sheer persistence and probably a bit of stupidity, like found ourselves here. So yeah,
It's a
it's
good place to
the
be.
state of the scene. Yeah, not bad. So I moved to Berlin a couple of years ago to do my master's degree. I'm still doing it now. And hopefully be finished after whenever I finish this thesis. But
Good
in the
luck.
meantime, I'm exploring, thank you. I'm exploring a few concepts here. Um, so differences between the two places. Obviously Berlin is like home of electronic music globally, right? So you have events and clubs that have been open for, you know, 20 plus years.
Hmm.
There's a level of efficiency in doing things that goes beyond just being German.
Haha.
Um,
I was about to say, is it
they've
just
kind
being
of
German?
maybe. I mean, but they figured their shit out, right? Like, and
Mm.
it's a lot of trial and error. And in this part of the world, we're discovering how to do this stuff. Um, what I'm noticing here is there's a, you know, a massive emphasis on relationships. If you have a bit of trust with people like other promoters and event organizers, you know, you can like book the same artists, share costs, build similar concepts, grow the pie together, you know. And yeah, so I mean, it's the main project I was involved with in Ethiopia is called Zoya. Was a event series that I started off as a resident DJ there and creative director. And you know, the first year and a half parties we're doing was about 200 to 300 people, and now we're averaging about 1,500 to 2,000. So full on warehouse raves, and you know, an informed populace about the music. People like genuinely fuck with the vibe,
Mm.
and it's amazing to see. It's if you have a little bit of consistency, if you got a clear vision, you can influence change.
Consistency is key. It's true.
100%.
Totally
Yeah, and I mean
true.
we were in a lucky position where we had the buy-in and trust of the venue owner. So
Hmm.
we didn't have to like search and start from scratch. We're able to build a bit, save a bit, and like invest. So the product and the experience got better over time. And as a result, like if you build it, they will come. I feel like I'm just saying idioms, but yeah.
Idioms are sometimes like super true. Like they're so cliche, but maybe we're just getting
Yeah,
old where
yeah. It's
everything
like,
is becoming an idiom that like comes out of our mouths. We're just
yeah, 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 yeah.
I don't know. So just going back to talking about, like you were saying, you weren't really into more of the like mainstream music. What sort of led you into, I don't know if you like really were led in through to electronic music or if there was some other alternative music that you got into before electronic music. What led
Yeah.
you there against the grain?
So, I guess from a personal standpoint, I've always been into like independent music.
Mm,
As a kid, you know, I loved the XX, James Blake. I loved indie rock as well too. And then I think I saw the same boiler room that's been seen by like everybody that's a DJ now.
mm,
Kitchenada in Montreal. I think this was in like 2014, and I was like, oh, this is cool. Kind of like an independent take on electronic sound. And I'd like heard house and stuff before that, prior to that, but I didn't get it. It wasn't like accessible. And then this kind of opened that door for me. So
mm,
when I first started DJing, I was playing a lot of that sound, and I guess you call it like future beats or something. Um, and just kind of playing. I didn't really have a taste or a sense of taste at that time, so it's just playing a bit of everything. And then I had another pivotal moment where I found a black coffee set, like
mm,
2015, Mix Mag, and it completely changed. Like I didn't even know people were making this kind of music. Like
okay.
super deep, really spiritual, soulful Afro house. It's if you haven't seen it, I recommend it to everybody. Black Coffee Mix Mag 2015. It's on YouTube. It's like
All
three
right.
hours,
We're
and
gonna
it's
look for that and
it's
try to put it
so
in here somewhere on the caption.
100%. It's soul enriching. It's super inspiring. I can go back to it now and watch all these years later, and I still feel the same way. So that kind of sparked this interest in this like Afro house sound. And Kenya was a few years ahead of Ethiopia at the time. So they were doing the sound already, and then I came here for a party, and this I was hooked. So I was like, I need to recreate this in Ethiopia. So I went back and started doing it, and I caught on. I have a few other colleagues started doing similar sounds, and now it's kind of like the de facto sound of electronic music in Ethiopia. Um, it's the margin. I mean, the market's still growing.
Mhm.
There's young producers and DJs that are entering the game there, every other day. And again, I love this DIY ethos because people are like, okay, cool, these people aren't booking me for their parties. Fuck them. I'm gonna throw my own.
Mm-mm.
And them and their whole crew of friends starts this whole separate independent movement with their own take on it.
Mhm.
It's amazing. Like electronic music is a bit viral in this nature, right? Like people go to parties, they get hooked on the sound, they become DJs, they become promoters, and it just grows and grows.
Mm. Yeah, it's a bug that bites you. So like you would say from your event, Zoya, like how many electronic parties do they have now really in Ethiopia? And this is this like
So
Addis
we weren't,
centered or is it
yeah,
throughout the country? Okay.
yeah. So we weren't, Zoya was not the first.
Okay.
Um, I have to give a shout out to my manager and his vision. He was amongst the pioneers. There's a guy called Rami Ahmed who started this event series called Unusual DJs. And and then my manager Chuchu, who is running Chuchu Promotions, he now runs a label called Mido, and they do like the coolest like alternative hip hop in
Mm.
Ethiopia. But he had his fingers in a bit of everything. So it's like some EDM stuff, some house stuff, some tech house stuff. But I think the Afro House was a real like pivotal moment because it did catch it hit a critical point or hit a critical mass in terms of attention and attendance and just the consistency of it. And I don't think anything's been able to replicate that. So for this specific sound, subsection of electronic music, yeah, absolutely. But we weren't the first. Everybody, all creatives stand on the shoulders of the people who came before them. So I think it's important to acknowledge like where you came from, who allowed you to do these things.
Absolutely.
Um, and then you pass it on to the next generation as well too. Like we're getting old. I'm not gonna do this for much longer.
Why not?
I don't know, man. I'm not trying to be in the club when I'm like 50.
Don't be at the club, be
maybe
at
I
the
don't know. Let's
beach
see.
and like host like a
True.
festival. Do something
Yeah,
low
you're right. You're right.
key,
You're right.
calm, chill,
Yeah,
easygoing. A boat
absolutely.
raid. I've seen you doing these like with like a festival. Was it in Zanzibar like last year or Mombasa or something?
Oh no, those in Watamu, and on the North Kenya coast. I'm actually going back in like 2 weeks.
There you go.
Um, true, yeah. Much better
That can
like
be
quality of
you.
life, you
Go
know.
party, go
Day
party.
parties, day party, day parties of the future, man.
Oh God, this is how you know you're like really gonna go. Day parties before the sunset or at sunset. It's
Yeah,
over.
100%. I got a bedtime. I got a bedtime. I got a sleep routine. Like sleep hygiene is important to me now.
Oh
Morning routine
God.
is
Oh no. Oh no. All right. I know you did mention indie rock bands because this is a very
yeah.
rock centered show. We have to take it back to that point. Indie rock, give us some bands. Who are your faves? Who are we listening to?
Ooh, who do I like? I'm kind of basic. I'm gonna be honest. I like the Strokes, like the Raconteurs. I saw Foo Fighters in concert in 2014, and it was life changing.
Hmm.
Um, so I like follow everything David Grohl does religiously. He
Hmm.
has a super group that not many people know about called Them Crooked Vultures.
Hmm.
They have a track called "Nobody Loves Me" and Neither Do I. You should definitely check that out because that shit's a banger.
Nobody loves me, and neither do I.
Yeah.
That's intense. That's deep.
It's a tune. It's a tune. It's a
That's
tune, and
deep.
the video is great too.
I'm also like, I don't think raconteurs are basic. Okay, basically any project that involves Jack White is just like,
True.
even if
Yeah.
it's basic and mainstream, I'm just like his brain and his skills are just crazy. So I give you
True.
props at least for the raconteur shout out, regardless,
Okay. Okay. Okay.
because of Jack White affiliation solely.
I'll take it.
That's all that's saving you at this point. But yeah, okay,
I'll
cool.
absolutely take it.
Great. So I have a question. So you were saying you were in Zanzibar playing a show.
Yeah.
You also were sharing that you were playing some shows in Uganda as well, that you played the show last year in Watamu. So what does that look like? Like Ethiopia, Kenya, just generally like the like festival vibe for electronic music.
Yeah. I mean, so again, the music is kind of roughly the same, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
it's each region slightly different interpretation of Afro house. Like, for example, in Ethiopia, we do like the more vocal stuff. You
Mm,
know, artists like Idaziz, who's actually Kenyan, are played there a lot. Um, because of our proximity to Arab culture as well too, there are a lot of those influences that seep into our music as well, or at least
mm-hmm,
our interpretation of Afro.
mm-hmm,
Uganda tends to be a bit more percussive and like booty oriented. Kenyans like their Afro house a bit more deep, and I guess like there's a subgenre of it, like I guess you call like Afro deep.
mm.
Um,
Is it like deep house or it's
so
different?
yeah, it's kind of deep housey,
Mm,
a bit more sophisticated, and I can't speak confidently about Tanzania yet because I've only been to Zanzibar and I've been there twice now.
mm,
Um, and it's kind of a hard scene to gauge because the whole island is like, it's completely tourist run. So I'm not really
mm.
necessarily playing for Zanzibaris. It's mostly just a bunch of Europeans. But so I gotta
You
get
know
the
me,
bag. So
I'm like, no comment. I'm not biting on that one.
hey, listen, there's some jobs that you do that are work, and there's some that are like projects.
Hmm.
Hey, you gotta make your money. So
Make your money, how you gotta make your money. So, but there's a booming scene. You would say like East Africa or like let's just say like Africa in general. There is like a booming
absolutely,
scene
East
for
Africa right
electronic
now. I
music.
mean, Kenya in particular right now is
Mm,
unreal. I mean, they have a club here. It's the first electronic club, all electronic club in East Africa. It's called Muse.
mm,
I'm actually gonna go see one of he's an artist who's doing like this hybrid of Afrotech and on the piano called Three Step. This guy
mm.
called Takzin. He's playing this weekend, and it's amazing. I'm spoiled for choice here. Like it's a matter of all right, like how do I have a healthy life balance?
You're
And
in
I'll
heaven
still
right
get all
now.
this like yeah, more or less.
For a person passionate about Afro House, I guess it's
Yeah,
Afro
it's I
House
mean
heaven.
Nairobi really is. Yeah, I mean we have like all the top South African DJs coming to play here like on a weekly basis.
Mm,
Um, a great club and a great sound system. I mean I'm able to travel and play in these places because I've been grinding away for years and really investing in people and relationships and being able to offer something in return as well too. Like I book a lot of these artists who host me. And it should be this way. It's kind of
mm.
like reciprocal nature.
Right,
Like we're
community
all
kind
take
of.
we're all 100%. We're all like learning from each other. We're all growing together. Um, and yeah, it's I don't know. So Nairobi's, I think it's, and I would love to see Kenya get its flowers a bit more
Mm.
in terms of the level of production that's going into these things, the amount of
Top
artistry
tier.
behind it, the amount of local talent as well too is insane. Like, yeah, every like you can go walk into a random club and hear a world-class DJ.
Mhm.
It's I love it.
Yeah. I accidentally went to an electronic music festival like last year. I don't even, it was like, you're like just scrolling on Instagram and something was sponsored. And I had
Yeah,
one of my colleagues, I was there for a conference. And I was like, have you heard of this? She's like, no. And I'm like, should we go? She's like, sure. It was like huge production quality. I'm like, okay, this is outside a shopping mall. Like, Kenya's on it. Kenya's doing its
nice.
thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, shout out Nairobi. Maybe we'll get a Kenyan artist here to share a little bit more about their work. They also have a
yeah,
great metal
absolutely.
scene, by the way.
Really? Okay.
More on that on another episode. I think
Okay,
this
okay.
is
You
a
already got a guess in mind.
I
Yeah.
got yeah, I got a guest in mind. They don't do like death metal or hardcore, but it's still rock music, still counts.
Mm, mm.
But yeah, this is a perfect opportunity to segue into the pass the mic session. Who are you listening to? Who do we need to listen to? I guess there's gonna be Kenyan artists there, probably,
Yeah.
hopefully. Yeah, put us
Okay,
on. What
so
should
I'll,
we be listening to?
I'll send you links for everybody I'm into right now.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, and this is one of the downsides of DJing, is you end up just listening to a majority of music that you are thinking about playing.
Mm-hmm.
So every now and then I have to give myself a bit of a break and like listen to something new. I come from a hip hop background, or like an indie rock background. So every now and then I'm like, all right, what's Massive Attack say? I go listen to
Mm-hmm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
But majority of the time right now I'm listening to primarily electronic music. At the moment, I'm kind of obsessed with this three-step sound.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so again, like I mentioned, it's a hybrid of Amapiano and Afro house. It's
Mm-hmm.
characterized by like a three-quarter kick pattern with a log drum.
Mm-hmm.
It's super hypnotic. It's very dancey. And it destroys dance floors. Every time I've dropped one of these tracks, it's epic. So the founders of this sound are, this guy that's playing this weekend, Taxin, Punjab, Atmos Black. So
Toxin?
definitely check out all those guys. Taxin, Thazkin.
Okay, I had a
I'll
whole
send you all
other
the links.
idea. I thought it was like toxin, like okay. Okay, yeah.
No, no, no. Taxin. I think
Okay,
that's like
okay.
I'm not sure. Don't come for me.
Okay.
Also, South African names are meh.
Mm,
Um, another guy called Atmos Black and another guy called Bunjapa.
okay.
And then from Kenya, there's this amazing producer and vocalist called Tina Ardor. She's releasing on, all the major Afro house imprints. She's fire and she's just getting started. Really
Hmm.
excited to see where her career is going.
Sounds cool.
Um, and then there's my friend Desiree, South African superstar who's blowing up. She's taking the world by storm right now. And it's, seeing her rise is super inspiring. And for the moment, that's kind of at the top of my.
That's a
Yeah, I
good.
mean, and there's a few other guys, but they're not African, so forget them.
This is an African safe space. All
Yeah,
right,
100%,
so
100%. No, no, no,
I will be waiting for those links for everyone to check them out. And as per usual, we will put those
absolutely.
links in the caption. So once you watch the episode, you can go listen to that as well as the boiler room session, as well as the black coffee session. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time to share with us and let us learn a little bit more about you. One line, something to leave us with today. Something cliche,
Drink
another
more water.
idiom. Drink more. That's not
Yeah.
what I expected.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a blast. And I'm excited to see who you got up next, and also follow up on this Kenyan metal thing. I'm interested.
Oh yeah, okay, yes. I will definitely put you guys. Not only Kenyan metal, we have a lot of metal artists coming up for the next
Okay.
episode.
Okay.
So
Cool. Cool.
be
Cool.
prepared. Be prepared. All right, thank you so
Absolutely.
much. See you all
Okay.
later.
Take care.